Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar Wednesday here on Facebook. I'm super excited to be hanging out with you guys for the next little bit, and we are going to be talking about protein. We're going to be burning down some myths here. I'm going to be sharing with you lots of amazing information that most of you have probably never seen before. And I'm going to be answering some questions. We're going to be giving away some new cookbooks. We have a brand new cookbook that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I'm really excited because protein is the most important macronutrient. It is the key to so many of the things that we all struggle with. So stay tuned, buckle up, take some notes. And you know what? If for any reason there's stuff that you kind of missed, that we went too fast, you can just come back and watch the video again afterwards, because we are going to be filling your brain with so much great information. And I'm such a big believer that when you're struggling, when you're gaining weight, when you're trying to lose weight, the most important thing isn't even what you eat. The most important thing is what you know. So we're going to be busting some myths. We're going to be breaking down exactly why protein is so important and how that affects you every single day. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to get started. So let's share my screen and dig into some protein right now. So I'm just going to hit share screen. Welcome to Nutracelle. I'm Melanie Wildman. I am the founder and creator of Nutracelle. I also used to weigh over 100 pounds more than I do now. I had weight loss surgery over 10 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. And in that time, I've managed to maintain my weight, and I've done it through totally changing how I eat and what I eat. So I'm going to be sharing with you some of the amazing research around protein and why it's so important to actually help you to lose weight. So let's get started with what on earth protein actually is. We hear all these words like macronutrients, carbohydrate, fat. Well, protein is simply the large molecules that are made up of amino acids that our bodies need in order to function properly. That's it. That's all protein is. And it's really one of the building blocks of life. It's called a macronutrient. If you've heard people say, I need to track my macros, that's what they're talking about, macronutrients. And macronutrients, protein is one of three. So there's carbohydrate, there's fat, and there's protein. And our bodies actually cannot create protein. So we need to eat it in order to get it. So unlike fat and carbohydrates, our bodies don't actually store protein. We don't have a reservoir of protein that we can just pull and use when we're a little bit low on protein. We actually have to get it from our food. So what happens when we don't have enough protein? Well, we start to feel tired. We start to not have enough energy to exercise or do our daily activities. And our body actually, if we get so low on protein, will break down our muscle, and it will use that muscle as protein. That puts your organs at risk, it puts your bones at risk, and it can actually have an impact on your immune system. So what happens when we don't get enough protein? How can we tell? Well, the early signs of not getting enough protein are fatigue, muscle loss, a low sex drive, some depression, some anxiety or uneasiness, and even anemia. So really easy to start telling when you're getting low on protein, you're just getting more tired. Now, protein is really important because the less protein you eat, the more food you eat. So we know that on what is called an obesogenic diet, in other words, a diet that is meant to increase weight loss, that's about 10% protein, 40% fat, and 50% carbs. And guess what? That's the standard North American diet. If we go over to the lowest food consumption, in other words, what are people eating who naturally are eating less food? Well, they're eating about 50% protein, 40% fat, and 10% carbs. And we know from research, from studies on humans, that if we give humans 50% fat, 50% protein, 40% fat, and 10% carbohydrates, that is the mix that will help people naturally, without thinking about it, eat less food. And we're going to dig in a little bit on why that is. It's super important and really fascinating. Now this is a slide, and I'm covering up the donut with my face, but behind my face there's an actual donut. The less protein you eat, the more food you eat. Why is that? Well, researchers, when they're fattening up rats to study, when they study obesity and they study our hormones, all related to fat, what they feed is something called obesogenic rat chow. It's a special kind of mix of food that makes genetically predisposed rats to obesity as fat as possible in the shortest period of time. And guess what its macronutrients are? 40% refined carbs, 40% vegetable oil, and only 10% protein. And the exact opposite is what we need to be eating to feel more full and to eat less naturally. So if you think about it, the standard North American diet, what we're told we should be eating is actually the fastest way that scientists have to make lab rats fat. So how common is protein deficiency, right? We're all eating a fair amount of protein. We're eating a fair amount of everything. That's why obesity rates have, obesity and overweight in North America is over 60% across all of North America. And it's really common. About 1 in 3 women are actually deficient in protein. So how can you tell if you're deficient in protein? Well, we'll go through some of the signs. And the first sign is the one that I think we all know, and that is constant craving. I don't know if you guys remember that country song from back in the day, but constant craving for food, especially for sweets and starchy foods, your chips, your pastas, those sorts of things. When you're craving those, that's a sign that you're not getting in enough protein. Candy, carbs. It's not like we're sitting there craving a steak, right? We're craving popcorn in the evenings. That's a good sign. If you're craving popcorn at night, you did not get in enough protein during the day. The second really important sign is muscle, joint pain, and swelling. And I'll tell you why here. Swelling is a really early sign. The protein actually holds salt and water inside your blood vessels. And so when you're not getting in enough protein, guess what? All that fluid, actually interstitial fluid, comes out of your blood vessels and leaks into the tissues all around. And that's how you get swollen ankles and swollen knees. If you've ever had that, for example, when you're flying or just when you're sitting at your desk in the office, that's a sign that you don't have enough protein. Also, you can just get cramps. You get more sore body, your back is starting to hurt. Those are all signs that you're not getting in enough protein. Another really important sign is you're not sleeping well. You're waking up every few hours. Maybe you go to bed really well, but then a few hours later, boom, you're wide awake at night. And what's going on is your body is actually telling you to get up and feed. You need to have enough fat reserves, and you need to have your body not trying to get sugar and glucose in order for it to sleep all the way through the night. So if you're not getting enough protein, guess what? Every 2 to 3 hours, you're waking up, and that's why you're getting those nighttime cravings. Maybe in the middle of the night, you're sneaking down and going into the refrigerator. Those are all signs that you're deficient in protein. Another really important sign, low energy, moodiness, anxiety, and stress are all related to not getting enough of the really good food that we need in our diets, and that's protein. When we don't have protein to stabilize our blood sugar, guess what? We have these big highs followed by these big lows, and it makes us grumpy, it makes us irritable, it makes us snap at our husbands and at our kids, and it's because we don't have the reserves we need. We're just not getting in that protein we need to keep everything nice and level. The next sign number 5, is weight gain. Or if you're losing weight, you've been losing weight and then all of a sudden you stall for a long period of time, up your protein. It's a really important sign that you're not getting in enough. And we'll dive into why that is, because I really do believe when you understand what's going on in your body, it's so much easier to make better food choices. People who eat too little protein, when you're not eating enough, guess what? You're losing muscle. So you're losing your lean body mass that you need to stay nice and slim and to keep your metabolism going. And you're also storing fat way more easily. Did you know that on a low protein diet, 90% of the calories that you're eating are stored as body fat? But when you're eating a moderate protein diet, only 50% are stored. So just like that, making one change where you're increasing more of the protein that you're eating instead of eating carbohydrates, your body is automatically storing less fat. People on a low protein diet lost 1.5 pounds of lean muscle mass when they were losing weight. So think about that. Every time you lose lean muscle mass, that slows your metabolism because your body actually needs more energy to hold on to that muscle than it does for fat. Now, when you took the same people and put them on a high protein diet, guess what? They gained lean muscle. They gained 6 to 7 pounds of lean muscle while they were doing weight resistance training. So between the two groups, just adding protein helped the people doing a little bit of weightlifting, and we're not talking power lifters here. It helped them to actually gain lean muscle, which then speeds up your metabolism. So it's much easier to maintain that weight. The next sign, number 6, is protein deficiency causes hair loss. Less hair. If you notice as you're getting older, your hair is getting slimmer. If you're like me and you had weight loss surgery, you notice after a few months your hair starts to fall out. You get brittle nails. Your hair is just thinner. And what happens is actually when you don't get enough protein, a few months later, about 2 to 3 months later, your hair will start to shed more. You'll notice more of it on your comb or on your brush, and your body's not actually producing enough collagen for your hair and nails, and also for your skin. As you age, collagen becomes so much more important. You need to get that from protein. The next sign of a protein deficiency, you are becoming a weakling. You're getting out of breath at the gym, climbing up the top of the stairs. You're winded. You don't have enough energy to get through your day. Those are signs that you're not getting in enough protein. When you're trying to do strenuous activities and you're not getting in enough protein, it's actually counterproductive. It makes things worse because you don't have enough reserves, enough protein to rebuild your muscles. So if you think about exercise, whether it's yoga or if you're lifting a few weights, how is it that your body repairs that muscle? Well, when you exercise, right, you're actually causing little tears inside the muscle. And then those tears heal, and you need protein in order to do that. So if you're just exercising all the time, you're going to waste down your muscles if you're not replacing it with enough protein. The next sign is that you're losing muscle tone and you're starting to become soft. The flabby arms under the, when you take off a shirt, those are all signs that you're not getting in enough protein. And when you lose that muscle mass, guess what? It's gone until you have to build it back. And that's way more work trying to build back muscle than it is just not to lose it in the first place. And protein's like a super protector. It's almost like a force field that you put around you. So when you're eating more protein, your body is actually conserving or protecting the lean muscle mass that you already have. The next sign is you're just not recovering very quickly. If you've had surgery and it takes a long time to recover, or if you sprained an ankle, or if you have some sort of injury, when you're protein deficient, your body takes way longer to heal. You'll notice that bruises, if you get a little bruise on your arm or on your leg, you'll notice that those bruises don't heal up very fast or not as fast as they used to back in the day. That's a really good sign that your diet is off track and you're not getting in enough protein. Your body needs that protein to rebuild itself. And the 10th sign that you're not getting in enough protein is you're catching every cold around. And once you catch that cold, you're not recovering from it. It lingers, it sticks around. And that's a sign that your immune system is starting to become weak. You need your ability to actually fight off foreign invaders. You actually need protein. Protein is an integral part of your immune system. And so when you have enough protein, that gives your immune function the ability to destroy the foreign invaders in your body. So you become way less sick, way less often when you're getting in a lot more protein. So let's talk for a minute about protein quality. We hear a lot about, getting your protein from quinoa or getting your protein from vegetables. Well, protein itself, the type that your body needs, is what's called a complete protein. That means it has all the amino acids that your body needs in order to rebuild all that tissue. And there's certain types of protein that are way more what's called bioavailable. And I know that's a big word, bioavailable, but it simply means that the protein quality, the protein you're eating, is your body's able to use all of it. And that's what we're looking for, is a protein that's as highly digestible as possible. And that's whey protein, more than egg protein, casein, way more than soy, or any other kind of protein. And humans have been eating whey protein for thousands of years. In fact, the Greek father of medicine, Hippocrates, used to recommend whey protein for immune function, what we were just chatting about. So when we think of the nursery rhyme, little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet eating her curds and whey. And whey just comes, it's what's left over when you make cheese, and it's super high in protein, but it's also a super protein. It's the most bioavailable, and it's the highest quality, and it's what makes you feel the most full. So there's types of protein that are really easy to get and types that are harder to get. So if you look at this chart, you can see how bioavailable it is for your 100 calories. So for every 100 calories, how much protein are you actually getting in? And again, you can see at the very top of the list is whey protein, even more than shrimp, even more than soy protein, even more than chicken breast, which is about halfway down the list. And if you want this list, you can message us. Just send a message at info@nutracelle.com and I'll send you this list so that you have it. Another thing to remember is how many calories do you have to eat to get the protein your body needs. This is one of the driving factors for why we've become obese in North America. We're eating so many more carbohydrates, we're eating so much fat and sugar now that we're not getting in enough, we're not getting the same ratio that we used to get when we were hunter-gatherers. And that means you have to eat a whole lot more of protein weak foods in order to get the amount of protein that you need. So just think of this. In order to get 30 grams of protein, you would have to eat 836 calories of quinoa. Compare that to 190 calories of Nutracelle. So it's a huge difference. You're basically able to eat way less, but get the same amount of fullness from eating protein. So your lean proteins, if you look here and you start to go down the list, you can see things like, wheat bread or beans or those sorts of things are really low in protein. And you can see the highest protein levels are your whey protein, moving all the way down the chain. So why do we need protein? Well, as we talked about, it boosts your immune function. It's good for your heart health. It's really important in regulating insulin if you have type 2 diabetes, or you're gaining weight, or you're just struggling with your weight and you have metabolic disorder. Any one of those things can be significantly improved with protein. It also improves the effectiveness of your exercise. It helps to lower cholesterol. It's really important if you've had weight loss surgery, and it helps to prevent or manage diabetes, type 2 diabetes especially. And when you have your protein, like with Nutracelle, I've got my shake going on here, you guys. When you have it with a prebiotic fiber, that does two really amazing things. One is it slows that digestion period, and it increases the bioavailability of the proteins. Your body can use all of it. If you have just the whey protein without the fiber, your body is actually digesting it quicker than you can use it. And so you're not actually using all of the protein that you're getting. When you have it with a fiber, that slows it way down, and you're actually able to use all of that protein. So the two things it does is it makes you feel way more full, 4 times more full, and it helps your body utilize all of that protein, so you're not just bringing in excess calories. And then how much fiber do you actually need? So in order to lose weight, we need about 50 grams of fiber. Minimum amount, the daily amount we need is 25 grams of fiber. And guess how much we get in North America? We're getting 14 grams of fiber. That's it. So we're not even getting enough to just basically be regular and go to the bathroom on time. We need to be having more fiber and more protein. One of the myths around fiber is things like whole wheat bread are really high in fiber, and they're actually not, as you can see from the chart here. So let's talk a little bit about losing weight and protein. What does the science actually say? What does it tell us? What do we actually know from human studies? Not little mice studies, but actual humans. Well, protein helps you lose weight. It helps you to feel more full and more satisfied. It's like a superpower. Protein itself helps with weight loss. In fact, the less protein you have, the more hunger you have. So if you look at the number 14, you can see 14% protein. That means in this study, they took half the subjects and they put them on a diet where their average amount of protein was only 14%. Look how much higher their cravings are. So obsessive thoughts about food are more than double. They're 60% higher having obsessive thoughts about food than when they just increased the protein to 25%. So they increased the protein in the diet to 25%. People are having 60% less obsessive thoughts about food, and they have over 50% less desire to eat at night. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but nighttime can be a lot of people's worst time, right? That's when you're getting snacky. That's when you're wanting food. So just increasing from 14% to 25% dramatically reduces the late night desire to eat. So how many of us have wished there was like a magic pill that would take away our hunger, or a magic pill that would take away our cravings? That's what protein does. If this was an actual drug, if protein was a drug that the FDA was going to approve, people would be calling it a magic drug. And yet we can naturally do this just by changing the types of foods that we eat as our core foods. And how is it doing this? Well, it's curbing those highs and lows. It's curbing the highs and lows from eating carbohydrates, and it's keeping you from storing body fat when your body is releasing insulin. So protein doesn't spike sugar like carbohydrates do. And in fact, if you eat protein with a carbohydrate, your glucose spike or your blood sugar spike will actually be less than if you have it without protein. So in other words, if you're going to be really naughty and have chips, you're better off having chips with meat or with a protein shake than just the chips, which I don't recommend the chips. You can check, if you check out Nutracelle.com and go to our recipe section, I actually have protein chip recipe, which is super easy to make. So if you're really wanting chips, we can get you some healthy ones. All right, guys, protein also helps you to just naturally burn more calories. So when you're eating, when you increase your amount of protein, your body naturally starts to burn off more calories, eating the same amount of food. And that's because there's a thermic effect of food. In other words, you don't just eat food other than sugar and have it go right into your bloodstream and be available to use as energy. When you eat protein, your body actually has to work to break that protein down and then turn around and use it. And that's why protein has what's called a higher TEF, or a thermic effect of food. So that thermic effect, that magic effect, gives you about a 30% discount. So there's been different studies, some are 25%, some are about 30%, but we know there's a significant savings. So if you're eating, for example, like me, you're having your shake, you're actually getting, it's like going to the store or going and getting a 30% sale. You're getting to eat 30% more calories, but your body is actually burning those just to digest it. So it's pretty cool. It's like a little free gift. So protein is super important because your body has an off-on switch. You're either storing fat or you're burning fat. There's no in between. So you're either putting fat on or you're burning fat, and that's all happening inside your fat cells. And I have a different webinar where I get into the science of that, but it's really important for you to remember this. When you're choosing food to eat, you're either choosing food that's going to help you store fat, which we don't want fat going on our backsides, or it's going to help us to burn fat. And that's the difference when you're reaching for something to eat in the kitchen. So what exactly does the science in humans, so not just little mouse trials, but what does the science in humans show? Well, we know in human trials that when we've increased protein from 12% of the diet to 25% of the diet, look what happens on this chart. Can you guys see that? The line on top that goes down, so these are people on a weight loss diet at 12% protein, they lose some weight. But look what happens for the people on the 25% protein diet. They're losing way more weight. That's why that graph is going down on the bottom. That's the amount of weight that they're losing. And it's double. It's double, you guys. So by going from 12% protein in their diet to 25% protein, they are burning off way more fat and they're way more successful. And this has been replicated many, many times. Here's another study showing when you increase protein from 15% up to 30% in the diet without restricting any food. In other words, they told the subjects in the test, eat as much food as you want, but they had to keep it to 30% protein compared to the 15% protein. Weight went way down, as you can see over to the side it would be on your left-hand side, the very first chart. You can see how much lower, the circled in red, the weight loss is. So way more weight loss. But then look over on the other side. Their feeling of fullness went way up, way up. So not only are they losing more weight, they're not feeling hungry. They're not feeling cravings. So their cravings, their feeling of hunger is way less when they're getting in more protein. And that's a small change to go from 15% protein up to 30% protein. They're seeing a huge difference in the amount of weight and, more importantly, in how much people are craving or wanting to eat. Another study looked at the exact same thing, but this is on maintaining weight. So what happens when you lose that weight? How are people able to maintain it? And this is really important for someone like me that had weight loss surgery. Number one way that you're going to maintain your weight loss, protein. You simply, almost impossible not to. 50% less fat regain for folks that increase their protein. And those are the same numbers. So they compared the group, 15% of their calories came from protein, compared them to the 30% with protein. The 30% folks, the folks who ate more protein, had 50% less fat regain. They had, again, less hunger, and most importantly, more lean mass. Remember, we were talking about when you conserve your muscle tissue, your actual metabolic rate goes up. You can eat more calories to maintain that smaller body frame. So it's really doing, quadruple work here, because your cravings are down, your hunger is down, you're better able to maintain that weight, so your weight is not creeping back up again, and your body composition is actually better, which makes it even easier to keep maintaining that weight. So you're getting this positive feedback loop from protein. Here's another study. This is a more recent study looking at pre-diabetics. So people whose glucose, they're becoming insulin resistant, their glucose goes out of control when they're eating some bread or they're eating some candy. Again, exactly the same macronutrients. So they increased from 15%, they studied the 15% and then 30% protein. What is the difference between the two groups? For pre-diabetics, it's pretty astounding. Complete remission. Complete reversal of their pre-diabetes by simply increasing protein from 15% to 30%. And that's so exciting to see the changes that we can make. Diabetes is preventable and it's manageable when you're cutting out carbohydrates and you're increasing that protein. We know it improves diabetes exactly the same, taking that group from 15% protein up to 30% protein, but this time in type 2 diabetics. What is happening with these type 2 diabetics? Well, all of the measures for health have improved, all of them. But blood glucose improved by 40%. That's without changing the rest of what they were eating. The only difference was increasing that protein to 30% of their calories that they took in. So it's an extraordinary resource. If you're struggling with type 2 diabetes, you're pre-diabetic, you're trying to keep your blood sugars, increase that protein. So protein also promotes your muscle growth and your muscle repair. When you have protein and you're doing some resistance exercise, so it can be body resistance like yoga or Pilates, or it can be lifting weights, which is the best kind. Even walking. Did you guys know that if you go for a walk for half an hour after you've eaten something, it will lower your blood sugars just going for that walk? So protein promotes muscle repair and growth. So you especially need it if you're exercising. If you start working out at the gym, you need to increase your protein in order to repair that tissue. Your muscles will repair faster after you exercise. One of the big fans of Nutracelle, he was the #1 MMA fighter in Canada. and Matt McGrath, and he swears by Nutracelle to this day because it cuts his recovery time in half. So unlike me, he's naturally, well, I guess he works out all the time because he's an MMA guy, but he's a super fit, lean guy. And yet it's his recovery time that's improved so much with Nutracelle. So the greatest benefits when you're eating protein is that you have to do it throughout the day. So you can't just stock up in the morning and then not have any protein for the rest of the day. That's not going to give you the benefit, the maximum benefit. So when you add 30 grams of protein at breakfast, 30 grams at lunch, and another 30 grams, it increases your fullness significantly by over 4 times. It keeps your triglycerides, your blood pressure low, makes you feel better, and it helps you to burn more fat. So you want to be doing it regularly throughout the day. High protein diets can reduce obsessive thoughts about food by 60%. Just think about that. How many times have you been like, oh, I would love to have, popcorn or chips or McDonald's or whatever it is that we're craving? If you have more protein, it's like a superpower that's giving you the ability to say no. It also reduces the desire for late night snacking by over 50%, just by adding more protein into your diet. No more sneaking down into the kitchen and then your pants don't fit the next day. That's why you need to have more protein. So adding protein can actually make you feel, there's a study done in women that showed you can automatically eat 441 fewer calories on average by increasing your protein. And that's over an hour on a treadmill. So I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather increase my protein and just naturally eat 441 fewer calories without trying, without having to think about it, than to have to go on the treadmill to burn those off. So unless you have lots of extra time for that, you're far better off increasing that protein so your body naturally tells you to eat less food. So we have a few protein myths that just need to go away and die already. So one of the myths that I've heard or I've seen online is that protein will leach calcium from your bones and can cause osteoporosis. So if you're eating a lot of protein, then you're not, you're blocking the absorption of your calcium or leaching it from your bones. It's not true. There's not a single study that shows this. It is an absolute myth. In fact, when you eat more protein, we know that it improves some hormones that we know are tied to our bone health, like IGF-1. So when you're eating more protein, it actually strengthens your bones. So it's the opposite of what we've been told. This is a big one that we hear. Well, what? Is it safe to eat this much protein? Will it cause kidney damage? No, it absolutely will not cause kidney damage. There's not a single study, not one. I challenge you guys to hang out on PubMed and look them up. There's not one showing any harmful effects of protein in people who do not have kidney disease. And bodybuilders will eat 300, 350, 360 grams of protein every day with no ill effects. It has no impact on their kidneys. They're able to consume the large amounts of protein that they need to. So for us that aren't eating anywhere near as much protein as, say, a bodybuilder, we're doing okay. And we do know that the 2 biggest risk factors for kidney failure are high blood pressure, hypertension, and diabetes. So guess what we already covered? Both high blood pressure and diabetes are significantly improved by simply increasing the amount of protein in your diet. The next myth that needs to go away is, can you eat too much protein? Am I going to bulk up? Is it going to have some sort of ill effect? Well, you can eat too much of almost anything. So if you're eating way too much of anything, it's not good for you. But overall, when you're using more protein, you're actually healthier. And there was a really cool study done. They actually did it in the prison population way before there were ethics boards. And they took part of the prison population and they gave them as much carbohydrate as they wanted. So as much bread, as much donuts, as much pasta as they wanted. And then the other group, they gave them as much meat as they wanted. And you can imagine back in the day, these prisoners were pretty excited to get all of this steak and pork chops and all of this food. But what they found really quickly was you couldn't overfeed with the meat and the protein. People would push it away. They would just feel full and these prisoners would push it away. But you could overeat to infinity on the carbohydrates. Just like the chip commercial, once you start, you can't stop. That's so true, and it was true in the prison population. So the group on carbohydrates all gained weight, and the group that were on the protein actually became more lean. So thank you, prison population. It's pretty fascinating to see the difference. So when you're thinking about protein, remember this, it's super important. Number one is it's your tool to cut out sugar. When you're replacing the carbohydrates, the stuff that, makes the rats that we saw in our very first slide so fat, so fast, when you're replacing that with protein, then you're giving your body the nutrition that it needs, and you're also giving your body the ability to burn more fat. Remember, you're either storing fat or you're burning fat. And protein is what helps you to burn that fat. So I've got a little gift for you for our Wednesday webinar. For the next 24 hours, we're going to have free shipping. So you can actually try any of our products. Usually our free shipping is just on our NutriBoxes, but for the next 24 hours, we have free shipping for you guys. And I think Tracy or Jordan are put the code on there, or it might be site-wide even. When you go, you can actually get free shipping. So if you want to try one of the flavors, you can go ahead and do that, and you will get free shipping even on a single bag if you want to check that out. And we've got an awesome new Pancake Magic cookbook. It's got tons of super easy pancakes to make. Everything is gluten-free, sugar-free, nut-free, and they're super delicious, as you can see from the cover there. And we're going to be giving you guys the link as a free giveaway. It is a 32-page cookbook packed full of all sorts of delicious and super easy to make pancakes, because who doesn't love protein pancakes? All right, you guys, I am going to exit out of here and go back to here so I can see all of you. I hope you guys can see me okay. And I'm super excited for you guys to try Nutracelle. If you haven't tried it yet, get on there and try it. It's life-changing. I wouldn't be able to maintain my weight loss without it. It's one of the things that keeps me on track, and it's helped me to maintain my weight loss over the last few years. So if you have questions about protein, or you're wondering about any of the studies that I pulled on to show you guys the power of protein, just send us an email, info@Nutracelle.com, and I will see you guys back here on Facebook for our next webinar. Thanks, guys.